Is the Bible right when it comes to sin and hell and salvation and heaven? Here are some thoughts from an ex-Christian. I don't want this to sound super dramatic, but just for context, before I get into it, I was a Christian for a very, very long time. I grew up in a Christian home. I went to a Bible school. I have a Bible degree. I was a pastor for 6 years. I went on a pretty radical spiritual journey. I still have a tremendous love for God, our Creator, but I have since evolved out of the Christian family. Just to be clear, what makes you a Christian, according to Christianity, is that you believe that you are, well, first of all, that you're created, that God is the creator of everything, that since the fall, since Adam and Eve, the original sin, since the fall, we are sinners, which separates us from God, and we need salvation. We need to be saved. It is through the perfect life, sacrificial death, and miraculous resurrection of Jesus that we can trust in to save our souls, to find forgiveness for our sins permanently, to have a restored relationship with God here into eternity. And that in doing so, after we die, we go to heaven as opposed to going to hell, which is an eternity separated from the source of all love, life, and goodness, the creator of everything, in a place called hell. Now, what Christians actually believe in terms of hell, that varies. But the predominant thinking, is the fire and Satan and all these things. And I actually don't know how many Christians still believe in that kind of like Dante's Inferno version of hell. I'm sure that many do believe that. But the point of this video, sin, needing salvation, heaven and hell, is this real? This is what I believe now. When I read in the Bible now, things like sin or sin nature, what I actually hear when I read that is ego. When we are attached to our ego, then all roads lead to hell. Now that's what I believe in hell too. I don't believe that hell is an actual permanent place of punishment for people in the afterlife. I believe that hell is when you are attached to your ego, your narcissistic ego, your human experience. When you identify with that as yourself, then all roads will lead to hell. Here's what I mean by that. Ego is the part of you that will get upset, frustrated, hurt by, will build resentment on anything. So whether it's a relationship with your spouse or your family or your coworkers, your boss or your neighbor, you could be offended by something and then your mind will stew on it, and then anger will come, and frustration and bitterness and pride, and all of these things will well up when you're attached to your ego, and that will lead to a hellish experience. We've all had these experiences with the people in our life. Another example, politics. Whether you're like super Republican or super Democrat or whatever, think about the opposing person and how much anger and lack of understanding and frustration you can have towards that person. That's because you're identified with your ego. You're identified with your human experience as yourself, but that's not who you actually are. Who you really are is the soul that's having a very expansive experience beyond the temporary human experience. You're here to experience life to the fullest, and you're here to learn spiritual lessons and to grow as a person and to grow in the collective human consciousness. The human experience is just that. It's just an experience. It's not who you really are, though. You're really the soul that's on this big, expansive journey that has likely had many human incarnations in the past and will likely have many more. The human experience is beautiful. It is a tool for you to live life to the fullest, to learn spiritual lessons, and to just grow as a person beyond the human experience. So this is just your temple. This is the material that is housing the immaterial, but the immaterial is who you really are. So when I hear the word sin, what I'm hearing is ego, in the sense that like this layer of you, the human experience, if you identify as the human experience as your true self, then so many things are going to frustrate you. So many things will anger you. So many things will cause like all of the greed and envy and gossip and all of these things are so wrapped up in the narcissistic ego. And all of those things lead to such a radically hellish experience. When I hear hell, I think about all of the many different roads that the ego will take you down. And it can be a pretty hellish experience here on earth. Now, when I think of salvation and heaven, this is the realization of who you really are. If you detach from the ego and you identify as the soul, now what I would say, I would go even further beyond the soul. I have a video on this channel that talks about my beliefs on the Trinity of self. And the first layer of self is the human, the narcissistic ego, that layer of self. The second layer is the individual soul experience, and that's like the micro view of self. But the macro view of self is really this limitless, expansive consciousness that is the source of all love, life, and goodness. True salvation then is identifying with pure consciousness. That is being saved from your ego, being saved from the hamster wheel of narcissistic ego thought and identification. When you release yourself from that hellish experience and you identify as pure consciousness, which is the limitless, eternal consciousness that is the source of all love, life, and goodness, when you identify as that and you believe that that's who you really are, that is salvation. That is heaven. That's literally heaven on earth. When you identify as pure consciousness, if you believe that that's who you really are, okay. I'm this limitless consciousness that has had many different human incarnations, but those are just experiences that the greater I am having. If you believe that that is what's really going on, which I do, that's what I believe I am and what you are. We are together, pure consciousness, having different human experiences. We are simply different living expressions of the same spirit. That right there is the key to unconditional love. Because if that's true, then you and I are the same. We're not different. You and I are the exact same spirit having different human experiences. That means that you and I are one. That means your coworkers, your boss that you don't like, or everybody that you see on the street, your neighbor, everyone is one. And so when you see someone in need, you should be, if that's you should be absolutely compelled to help that person. If there's someone that bothers you, but you have this realization that we're actually the same, just having different living expressions, just different experiences, that untaps unconditional love because you're one with everyone and everything. This is liberation. This is salvation. When you untap this potential of unconditional love, talk about inner peace. If you're detached from ego, meaning your human experience isn't who you really are, but you're really this consciousness beyond this temporary human experience. Any challenge that your human experience is having, you can observe that from a completely different lens now. You can see that as, wow, my human experience is really bothered by that, but that's not really who I am. That doesn't serve me. That can't negatively impact me because I'm the eternal consciousness, just like you are. Now, that's on the macro level. On the micro level, you're an individual soul that's learning and growing and spiritually ascending by overcoming all of these different spiritual lessons. But you can look at the ego, you can look at those challenging situations and be detached from that. And you can find real peace. Why? Because the core of who you are is peace. The core of who you are is love. The core of who you are is life and goodness. And when you realize that, it's heaven. You have just opened up the gates and you are now in heaven on earth. Think about if everyone on this planet believed that. That is a new earth. That is a completely transformed place. That is an existence, a population full of unconditional love, inner peace, total life energy, total goodness. It's amazing. So is there sin? Is there a hell? Yeah, I do believe that. But I hear ego. I hear when you're wrapped up in your human experience and you're getting frustrated and bitter and angry and your pride is welling up and you're attacking and you're defensive, yeah, that is hell. That is a brutal experience that many of us live day to day to day. Is there salvation from that? Yes, there is. And actually, I believe that is what Jesus was coming to teach, that Jesus was coming here to teach. Leave the former self behind. Be born again. Be born anew. Into what? Into pure consciousness. When you align with the divinity that is within you, the spirit that is already within you, you are free. You are liberated, and you open up the gates of heaven and you find unconditional love, peace, joy in any circumstance. Joy that surpasses understanding, peace that surpasses understanding, that comes from the core of who you really are, the spirit of who you really are. That is so good. That is the good news. That's the gospel of Jesus, in my humble opinion. With all of my background in Christianity and all my understanding of Christianity, I know there's gonna be so much rebuttal from the Christians in the comment section. That's totally okay, and I welcome that. Share your thoughts, whatever you want. With my background in Christianity into my new discovery into in the things that I read about consciousness and God and things like that, I believe the good news of Jesus is this: surrender your sin nature. Surrender your ego, your narcissistic ego. Surrender that. Let it go. No longer identify with that as yourself. Let that go. Because that leads to hell. That will lead to a hellish experience. I'm not talking about a permanent place of eternal punishment after you die. No, no, no. The hell that is experienced every single day here on earth when we are tied to our ego. Let that go. Identify with your true divine nature, with your consciousness. The consciousness that is limitless, expansive, that's the source of all love, life, and goodness, that goes beyond your temporary human form. Identify with that and you will find unconditional love. You will find inner peace. You will find life energy. You will find all goodness. That is the spirit that is within you. So now from this perspective, I have left Christianity, and by the way, yeah, no judgment. I love Christians. I loved my time as a Christian. I did not look for any way, I was not looking for a reason to leave Christianity, by the way. I loved my time as a Christian. And if you wanna know more about my spiritual journey and the spiritual evolution of why I left Christianity, I have a video that explains all that on this channel, so I'll link that in the description. But I did not want to leave Christianity. I love Christians. I love everyone. I got unconditional love for everyone. And that video that I just referenced, man, there's so much judgment on me. There's so many comments that are pretty judgy. And I'm totally okay with that. Honestly, I read that. I'm not affected by that in the slightest. And I might get those same comments on this video. That's totally fine with me. I'm not attached to that. If I were attached to that, that would just be ego, and guess where that would take me? To hell, because I would be so concerned with what you're saying about me. But I'm not. I'm not attached to that whatsoever because that is very, very ego. I'm beyond this human experience. I'm a soul having a human experience on a micro level. On a macro level, we're all one as pure consciousness. So I'm gonna leave the video at that. Please, I would love to hear your comments. And if it is completely different opinions than mine, I want to hear that. I wanna read, but I wanna know why you believe what you believe. So share your comments below. And if you want to hear my thoughts on anything else, maybe a further elaboration on this, because I'm trying to keep this video short. But if you want a further elaboration on this, or if you want me to discuss anything, please let me know in the comments. I'll read that and I'll definitely store that in the memory bank for future videos. And if you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate a subscribe. Thank you so much. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.